When in Rome, Chapter 11. There was no sleep. Staring at the ceiling, in his mind was a pool of water, exploring every crevices he could find for the missing girl. The guilt has remained, if not greater. The regret has embedded deeper into his vein, so much that his whole being was alert to focus only on her. What was the reason? It was a simple trip. How can she be missing when there were so many people around? Also, there was no news about anyone fell onto the track, unless... By his bedstand, his phone rang. He was glad for the interruption. He needed a break from a situation that has been aching him for almost 24 hours. He looked at his watch as he picked up the phone. A male voice got straight to the point right after Antonio answered. There has been a call. A woman is dead at the beach in the next town. We are short-handed, and so I need you to go meet up with the officers there. They are expecting you. It was not the order he wanted to hear. It was his day off, and he was waiting for Vincent's call so he could continue in looking for Molly. But when the chief of the police department, who seldom barked a specific order at just one officer in the middle of the night, he could not object, nor did he want to, for despite his prior experience, a dead body case in this area was rare. The moment he arrived into town, the sparks from the siren were extremely bright against the slowly awakened sky that showed only a slight of dawn. Since it was not a police car, he parked it at a public parking lot across the street from the beach and walked down a ramp that led him to a stretch of gravels and sand. There were only a few uniforms gathered in semicircular on a huge boulder formations slanted into the water. Just then he realized he should have put on his uniform. One of the officers approached him and shouted, "You can't be here right now. We're conducting an investigation." Antonio produced his badge, which he always carried like a wallet, and showed it to the officer, who aimed it with his flashlight and then said, "Oh, see, we're expecting you. Follow me." At close range, Antonio joined the rest of the officers in staring down at the lifeless body that was semi-submerged in the shallow water with hand-sized bedrocks laying beneath. He immediately recognized her, despite the disarray of wet hair mixed with sea vegetation and the paleness of her face with her eyes wide open. A sudden chill was sent right into his spine that he was certain did not come from the wind, and immediately he thought of Molly. The MDI from the Civita Vecchia should be here soon. Any unusual thing happen in your town that can relate to this? Antonio was not certain if he was ready to mention Molly. He needed more information, and at this moment, knowing that credit card transaction has become more vital than ever. Is this why? Is this why she is missing? He clenched his fist. He absolutely could not tell them. If they knew, then the media would spread it. Then whoever has kidnapped her would panic and do her more harm before he could save her. He retraced what Molly had told him about their names and appearances and the van. If the van was mint green and based on the amount of people that the witness claimed were in it, then it would have made sense. The van was gray colored. Nothing unusual, said Antonio. Drunken assaults at local dance clubs and robbery in the tourist area. one in particular involved with a getaway van. Yeah, same here, one of the officers replied, but the only van that were reported was abandoned. Antonio did his best not to show any sign of emotion. What was the color of the van? Gray. What was yours? Mint green. I see. The officer replied, the engine was dead by the time we found it. Where? Asked Antonio. At a no parking zone somewhere near the beach, and the interior was full of trash and traces of cocaine. We confiscated, of course. When was this? The officer paused a moment. Not sure. I have to check. Antonio was not convinced by his answer. There was a sign of resistance, as if not wanting him to know more. The MDI arrived and hovered over the dead girl, while he and the rest of the officers getting ready to take notes. The medico-legal death investigator opened his briefcase and put on a pair of rubber gloves. He took out a camera and a small handheld voice recorder. He hung the camera around his neck and held the recorder and began to record his voice as he proceeded to examine the body from head to toe. The victim appeared to be in her 20s, Caucasian with brunette hair color and green eyes. The livor mortis has begun, which lead to the appearance of pale ash coloration of the skin. And based on the stiffness of the limbs, the rigor mortis process has also begun, which indicates that the victim has been dead beyond 6 hours. The temperature of the body matches the ambient temperature, which also indicates the process of algor mortis, which means the victim is dead past 24 hours. No sign of bloating and putrefaction, which indicates that the gas in the victim's cavity has yet to process, and thus stage 2 of the decomposition has yet to occur. The investigator reached into the victim's jeans and jacket pocket and pulled out a couple of items. There appears to be 2 items from the victim, a passport and a plane ticket. Both have been damaged, possibly by submergence in water. Blood rushed to Antonio's head.